Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. TC, but you don't sound like quite well, sir. You sound far from your mic and breaking.
Oh,
Good
how
afternoon,
about now?
sir.
Afternoon. Are you okay?
I'm fine, thanks, and yourself, sir.
I'm just
Afternoon, sir.
afternoon. How are you?
Good, and how are you?
Those things.
Why is your voice so low today?
Is it? I thought it's a blue. Hi. Okay. Let me just fix my mic and just mic here. Okay.
Okay.
How about now? Is it better?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
sir,
better.
it's better.
There's an
Is it
echo.
better?
There's an echo behind you.
Oh, oh, okay.
But we can hear you, sir.
Okay. I think my network is a little weird today. Keeps on disconnecting and connecting and stuff. So just in case you guys don't hear me, probably I'm just busy with it. So what I'm busy trying to take right now, I can fix that this network issue I'm facing. But anyway, can you guys hear me though? Can you hear me at the current moment?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So today I want us to go back on that thing that we were doing yesterday. So before I move any further, do you have any questions, any queries regarding what we were doing yesterday? Do you have any problems? And I was reminded that to check with your also cameras, guys. Please, I was tasked with reminding you guys about your cameras. So please just check out if your cameras are on and like that. But then if ever there is any problem, then just shout and stop. Right. So anyway, now if there's no further question about anything that we've been doing so far, can I proceed now? If there's no question, but if there's a question, then we need to address that first.
So I don't know if you can answer this question now or
Okay.
towards the end of the session. I was asking if there's gonna be any project and what is it gonna be about. Right now, we are breaking the JavaScript to our understanding, but I think we should bear in mind what the project is gonna be about. So, can you just tell us, like last time we did a certain project, right? It was a CV for JavaScript. What are we gonna do?
Uh, I didn't get your entire question. I only got the last part.
So I'm asking, with HTML we did CV, with JavaScript what are we gonna do? Right now I do sure like we are breaking the JavaScript to our own understanding. You're explaining it as to us bit by bit. So I want to know what's going to be the project on JavaScript.
JavaScript is to enhance, is for the same thing that you have been doing, isn't it? Like HTML was to create the structure of a website. Then CSS is to style and make it kind of responsive to an certain extent. And then JavaScript then now helps you to make, for instance, you've got buttons, you've got forms, you've got contact, like all the aspects of a web page that makes a web page. For instance, if I need to click on something and then for a form to be submitted, for you to be able to store information into
Fill
a
in
database.
and say.
Yeah, things like that. Because
Yeah, I want
otherwise, like
you
right
to
now,
be
as it is,
specific as to what are we gonna create. Remember with the previous HTML, you were specific as to say we are going to create a CV form. So with this one, I thought maybe you'd be specific as to maybe you're gonna create the data form and then you're gonna fill it in, and I'm going to check such things. I'm going to check if it's clickable, if you can fill it in. Those things I wanted you to be specific. Say, hence the question.
okay, like I'm saying, with right now, to give you a project would be pointless. You can write everything that you're writing, but you haven't done databases, you haven't done, there's still some stuff that you need to cover for you to get a whole comprehensive project, especially on the JavaScript part. Right now, what you're supposed to do is go back on your website and then create a form on that website and then make those items there to be like, for instance, capture information from that form using JavaScript code. But then the rest of the items that we're going to add later, and then you are going to be able to like to add into a database.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So for now, just create a form, and then just make that form as nice as it can be, and then just write some JavaScript code. But from there, and then the rest of the information is still coming because we still have some stuff also to do, like your.
Yes, so we are still breaking the JavaScript. I understand.
Yeah, and remember also, it's not just JavaScript. There's also what you call SQL, which is the database. There's also the database because our database has to be able to work with JavaScript.
Good, Sam.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. Thank you.
Okay. So from your side, guys, tell me, is there any feedback noise? Because I'm hearing some noise from my side here. I'm thinking maybe it's my mic or it's my headphones. So on your side, are you getting any kind of noise or it's fine?
Can you please come again, sir? I didn't hear that.
I'm asking if from your side here you have got any feedback noise, like same way I've got some noise coming from my side here, and somehow my computer is making some funny noise. So I'm asking if you guys can also hear some noise, or it's just from my side.
I think it's from your side.
It's from my side only. Okay. I know. As long as you guys don't hear the noise, then it's okay. Because I thought maybe there's something. Okay. All right. So yesterday, this is what we're looking at. So I've got a PDF document here that I'm actually showing from yesterday. So today we're looking at functions. So now, when you're talking about functions, a function is a collection of statements that can be run anywhere at any time. That is what a function is. Can you guys see the screen that I'm sharing right now about a PDF about functions?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes, sir, we can.
Now, this thing here about functions here. We say that a function is a collection of statements that can be run anywhere at any time. And then the keyword is always the same. It's always function. That is where we usually start. And then from there, function, and then we call upon the name of the function. And then inside, and then we've got what we call parameters. We've got parameters there. And then from there, and then we've got the function body. And then notice, or another way that you can do it is you can declare it. So it can be declared in two ways. So let me write both sides. Okay, let me just copy these two. Then I'm just going to. So notice there. So this is the first part of a function. Right? This is the first part of a function there. So you've been given something like this. You guys are used to kind of format. Yeah, you're used to this kind of format there. We've got the function that we call the function there, and then from there, then we've got the name of the function that has been written in camel case. As we said, that the name of the function always starts with a small letter. You can put a capital letter in between, but it always starts with a small letter there. And then this here is what we call camel case. And then from there now, and then we've got the argument or arguments, whatever arguments that you have, e.g. you can say A, comma B, like what you've been doing, or like in the previous examples there. And then inside, you've got the body of that particular function, whatever that you want to put in the body of the function there. Like as we were saying here, now if you go back to the function, say a function is a collection of statements that can be run. So basically, it can be a bunch of statements that you put right there. See that? And then the second part of how you can declare a function is simple. This method here. Okay. And then you can use this method here. Now, instead of just calling the function straight up and then function name, what you can do is you can call it as a variable like that, and then the variable, and then you say function name, and then inside, and then you're going to have the function, and then you say equals to a function, because now when you're saying variable function name and then equals to function, you are now basically saying that this function name here, or this variable called function name, is actually a function that has got arguments, return what, and inside then you've got value of that particular function there. Then you've got the body of that particular function. Notice these basically are the same. It's basically the same thing. I would prefer if you use it like this, even though you can be fancy and use it like this, but this here is the preferred method of doing your functions. But you can also do it like this. So it's up to you on how you declare a function and how you use it. But basically, this here is us dealing with these functions that you have. So the first one is you just call it straight up function, and then the name of that function. Then you've got your arguments, and then you've got the body of that function inside the block. Or you can declare a function as a variable. Now, when you declare the function as a variable, now you declare it there, and then from there, now, and then you assign it, because like as much as you say a variable called function name. So now what is that variable? Because notice, like most times when you just say, for instance, like this, var, and then function name, I just want to show you this. Function name, and then here I say equals to, for instance, I just write in quotes here, and then I say up. Now, is this a function or not? Is this a variable or not? It is kind of a variable, isn't it? Then you can terminate like this, and then you just move your mouse on top. Technically, this can be anything. So as long as you didn't declare it properly, this can be anything. So we cannot really use it like this. The reason why I'm getting this name. Okay, like that. But anyway, now if you notice here, we do not have anything here. There is nothing really that we did to this piece of code here. It can be anything. Hence, every time whenever you're dealing with functions, always remember that if you're declaring your function as a variable, it's supposed to tell us what that variable is getting its information from. This variable called function name is getting information from the function that has got certain arguments, and then from there, then these statements that are written inside the body of that particular function there. So now functions can represent anything in code. Anything can be represented by functions in code there. So now what can we do with functions in Java? Functions can be used to a lot of different things. That's why if you check, almost everything that you do in JavaScript is going to be done inside of a function. Almost everything is going to be done. So basically, in JavaScript, one thing that you should know is that a function is a block of code that is simply designed to perform a task. So what is the task? Can be anything. The task can be anything there. So whatever task that you, or whatever you want to execute, whatever that you want to achieve, it can be achieved of a function. That is what a function can say. So now we can use these functions for a variety of things. So going back to my thing here, let's say functions that have no return value actually return undefined. If a function has no return value, it returns undefined. That's what a function would do. If it has no return value, it returns undefined. And then functions cannot be overloaded also as well. You cannot overload functions. You are not allowed to overload functions. They are not allowed to overload functions. And then here it says that the last function becomes the one that is. So if that's what we mean by overloading. So which means if you write functions back to back, the last one that you write is the one that becomes the default function, the one that is actually going to get used. Not all functions are going to be them. So if you write, like maybe 5, 6 functions, last one that you use, one that is one that is going the last one that you. So I'm going to explain this in more of what you call this, a practical example. Then the function class, functions are full-fledged objects. Like if you still remember what an object is, a function is a full object. It's an entire object on its own. This is what a function is. That's the simple meaning there. If we go, and then all functions, they've got arguments. This is what we mean by arguments. This is arg1, arg2, up to arg9. So you can put as many arguments as you can, many arguments as you want. So now these arguments here, we say that the argument object. So within a function code, a special object called an argument gives the developer access to the function's parameters without specifically naming them. You can do that without specifically naming your functions and stuff. You can literally use arguments for you to be able to go through that particular route of you writing specific objects for a function. And then any developer defined function accepts any number of arguments up to 255. You notice that? A function can accept up to 255 arguments, from argument number 1 to argument 255. And I doubt that you guys will be making use of ridiculously. That's a lot of arguments. So I wonder what kind of project that you'll be writing that you will actually need go all the way up to as to 255 arguments. Like the ones that we've been doing in class, usually they're 3, 4, depending. Sometimes they can even have less number of arguments.
Oh, sir, we are not hearing you.
I thought it was only my side. I don't hear anything also.
Can't hear you. Someone was saying something, but no, they're quiet.
Mr.
Sir,
Tisi, I can go ahead. Mr. Tisi,
Yes.
you were not audible from my side, so
Oh,
I
is
just
it?
wanted to let you know, but now I can hear you.
Altome?
oh, I was saying the same thing, sir.
Oh, I wasn't audible.
Yes.
Okay. I said that sometimes my network just goes off for some weird reason. Wi-Fi, like right now. Appeared. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can.
So as I was saying, like my network sometimes just cuts off. You guys have a little bit of understanding to I might be cutting off, so if you don't hear me, let me know. Mfundo, I saw you.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Mfundo.
I was trying to tell you that my camera won't switch on, so don't be surprised, but I'm fixing it with Mr. Bonello. I was even asking if you guys can see me, because my camera light on my side is on, but I can't see myself. So I don't know if you guys can see me.
I can see.
That I'm speaking to Mr. Bonello about it. I don't know what's happening because the light is switched on, the camera is switched on. So I wanted to report to you. So I don't know. I've been troubleshooting all this time, but I'm gonna miss on the content that is important. So I'm gonna leave it.
Okay, it's fine. As long as you know it's just what.
Yes, I did speak to him.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. Also, as long as you spoke, it's fine. Okay. So I was talking about these functions here. So let's see if there's an example. But before I go to examples, I need to go through these different functions that we have. So we've got a bunch of functions in JavaScript, because as I said that JavaScript is like, it's very versatile in its functioning. It's very versatile. And then how is it then versatile? Now, I had, like, for instance, in the talk that I had with Nomfundo, and she was asking me that question before, we're saying that we're going to be using JavaScript to also deal with databases. So which means now, if you observe, JavaScript does two things. It works on the front end. It also works on the back end. So basically now you've got those two, the front end and the back end. So now on this node, JavaScript, then you notice that it does a lot of work. And then there are certain categories when it comes to its functions. So I'll write these ones there. We've got what we call a string function. And then you also have what they call an array function. But before I go there, let me look at the string function. So now, when it comes to the string functions, there's certain things that we look at. My computer keeps on disconnecting. Okay, so anyway, I was talking about the string function. So now that we have inside, there's a bunch of functions that we have inside. So now this one returns the length of a string. It returns the length of a string.
Mr. TC,
Yes, sir.
there's a sound that is running on your background.
Yeah. Sorted. Notice. So you've got that second one, to uppercase and to lowercase. These two here they convert the text either to upper or to lowercase. Convert. Okay, apologize for that. Okay, so that is the second one, and then we've got concat. This is also part of these string functions. We have been using this a lot. This one here, concatenate. So concatenate. Two more strings, and then substring, and then we also have written also like this, str, and I think this one. Basically, these do the same thing. They extract strings. Extract strings from no substrings. That's substrings. These are the other string functions. They are a part of. So now, how we use up to you. So, since the lengthwise, so that's counting that. So now, that's the length.
Yes, I'm not sure if it's on my side, but you are really, really like breaking. I'm not sure if it's on my side for everyone.
So now, we have to have some of these. I mean, there is a bunch. Because there is a lot when it comes. But so up to you. Like if you length of the test, length of the
Sir? Mr. TC?
I want to see if you can make two uppercase, for instance. So, just a matter of calling it each. Let's have variable.
Sir, you sound far from your mic.
Yeah, going to give and the name is now want to convert. So for us to convert, I can then it's a function. Okay. Okay. Uh, 9. So what they want here particular I'm gonna give the const upper upper guys, just give me a couple of minutes because
Okay, Mr. TC.
I just want to restart my router so that I can see what Guys, can you hear me now?
So still you're not audible enough.
Saying I'm not audible enough.
Yes. You sound far.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Let me sort it out. How about now?
It's a bit bad.
I think I also need a little bit up. Yeah. Now. Okay. So now with this. Okay. So I was still fixing. Yeah. That. Okay. Then I was saying that I need to say upper. Um. Then post that. Um. That terminate.
Sir, you're still cutting. I don't know if it's on my side only, but you're still cutting.
Our network is fixed now. So maybe it's on your side. I don't know. Like everyone
There's a sound wise thing. But you're audible, but you're cutting a bit, not too much.
okay, because I think it's my network. So I think today I might have to finish our class early because necessary. I I think I'm better now. What do you think?
No, Mr. TC, you are not because you are cutting like yeah, it's still cutting.
So we end up not hearing what you are saying, because you're cutting a lot.
So, I don't know because my network is bad, but it's not that bad that it cuts a lot. So okay. Okay. Now, if you check on the screen here, look, we declared a variable called name, and then we gave it a value, Saniton. And then from there, and then we declared a variable or a constant variable called to upper. And then this constant variable was converting the name that we have to uppercase. That is there. And then from there, and then we just had to console log it. So there's two ways that you can do this. Sometimes I don't even need to declare this constant here. So I can remove it. Let me do this. Let's copy it. Then I can remove this. And then inside here, then I'll just use that. Notice the name dot to uppercase. So what I'm simply doing is I'm telling name, this variable name. Then whatever that you have, convert it to uppercase. Then I'm simply supposed to have same response. Can you see that? I can even change this here to maybe say, so when I do that, I run this again. What is my return here has to capital. My network is a bit slow, so and program. There you go. So now notice here, I have two there. So every time, whenever you deal with your project, so I mean, whatever you want to convert, this is how you make use of some of these. Like these string functions, they are used inside the code. That is how we use a string function. So these, they do not modify anything, they simply change. Okay, when saying change, yeah, they change how your code looks, how your output. So each, now if I can write here capital return, and then here I change this lowercase, then I run this, converts everything to small letters. So this is how some of these functions work there. That is to upper, to lower. And then length also, it counts. If I say dot length, I think we spoke about this one before. Dot length, this one simply returns a number. So notice this is return here. It will count how many things are in return. When you run that, simply supposed to return that. Metric bed. Kind of bad. So the dot length basically also does the same thing. Does the same thing. As I was saying that your length function simply looks at the code and returns the length, that particular code that you have there, the length of that particular code that you have there. So if I'll put it okay. Now after running it, give an error. Why? Because I'm not supposed to have that, because a length doesn't have parameters. So name.length, and it's notice there 6, because bucket wasn't supposed to put them. So notice here it counts. That's what a dot length. That's what a dot length function does. So, and then there are other functions that concat, as we say, that they combine two different strings. For instance, I can say name, and then another variable there and call it then we've got these two. Then concat. Now concat will join these two strings together. What concat will do? It will simply join these two strings together. So if we write it, so was simple joining those two strings together, then we will just tell the string to concat. So that's what a simple concat item does. It just joins those two strings together that you have. So in this case here, if I can say concat, Then inside the brackets, because concat has got those brackets there, if you notice there, and then I've got name, comma, then I think it should be fine, and then I have to do okay, let me see if I can manage it, guys. Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
You're audible,
Yes, sir,
sir.
we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the concat name. So want to combine these two strings, name, concat, then like concat here. I want to leave a space first, because okay, let me just write without leaving a space. Space here, so that you get difference between the two. Let's see. Now run that. Okay, still some. Oh, concat without any. Yes, there we go. It's noticed that now it joined name and surname. When you say name dot concat surname, so we're joining name and surname. So what we can do is we can leave a space like this, and then separate with that. Notice now when I leave a space like this, I'm supposed to have a space. So run. Okay. My strings are supposed to be separated. Why is it refusing? See now these things sometimes. To see why my string is refusing. Yeah. To because okay, let me just remove that, and then no. Right. So my network, if I give it the way that's supposed to be, network doing nonsense. Right, leave a space, leave a space. Oh, there we go. Notice it's working, but the problem there was just the network. The network is on Joy. Okay, so anyway, notice there, you can leave a gap by just adding something. You can even add some more variables there, and say maybe declare another variable and say return mundo Let me say add. This is hello. Put an exclamation there. Then I can come here and then I say add. If I add, I also need to add something. Yeah, that empty space in between. See? So now we've got all of this then. Now we can run this. Notice the Saluton window, hello. Saluton window, hello. Then you can even add, let's say you want to add a comma. Yeah, you can have that, then put a comma in between. So now putting a comma, saying that put a comma just by sending here. Saluton window, hello. So you see that we're joining many different strings. Because what if you're dealing with a sentence that has got, or from a form that has got the name, surname, and other information that is captured on a different aspect of the form. So those are some of the things that you need to look at. So if you see, this is the use of these string functions. And then there are other functions that you deal with. As I was saying that there are other functions that we deal with there. So the other functions besides the string one, there's also what they call math functions or number functions. These ones there, we looked at them already. For instance, we looked at pass into. We also looked at what? Pass into, which is passing into an integer, and then we've got a pass float. Then from there are other functions like to fixed. Those ones are for numbers. For instance, if you want to have certain decimal numbers, if you want to send certain decimal numbers after a comma, there is a to fixed there. And then you can fix the number of decimal places using that to fix. Then there is also a random that generates a random number. And then there is round, which is math.round, that rounds off a number. So if ever we need to use that, yeah, you can always go and check. There are many of these functions. It's not limited to that. So there are a lot of the functions. So we cannot cover all of them. So what you guys need to do, you need to go and look. 1, string functions. 2, number functions. So these are functions that we use in between our code. And then we've got also what they call array functions. We're going to make use of this. So I'm not going to look at array functions for now because we still have to look at arrays. Then we're going to look at its functions when you're doing with arrays. So what I want us to look at today were functions, like that's what we've been looking at, functions there. As I said that now, when you're dealing with functions, this is basically what makes JavaScript. Like as I said. So now, with these functions in JavaScript, there is a lot, like that we write different functions certain ways. So let me see if I can do like a basic example that we can use a function in real life. Okay, let's see if we can use a function to do certain things, like data validation, for instance. Data validation, yeah. I think we can use data validation or what they call form validation. So now with form validation in form validation in JavaScript, right? There's a lot on how we make use of it. Already we have done some aspect of that, of which you guys saw that last time when we did it. Like those examples that we've been doing in class, that is basically using a function to deal with data validation. I don't think that we can go back to those examples because that's a lot of work. It will take a lot of time right now. But if you go back to those examples that we did in class, especially last month when we were designing a form, and then from there we got in the name using get element by, you remember that? And then from there, if the name is empty, if the email address is empty, if the password is empty, and then give an alert or a pop-up that says all fields are required. You remember that? If you remember that stuff, that is an example of us using functions to do form validation. So that was us using functions. We use functions for a lot to process data, to perform DOM manipulations, which is document model, object model, so if you still remember that. Then to do event handling, we use a function for us to do that. And then we've got what? User authentication. See, like amongst a lot. So we do that a lot. So it's up to you as to how you are going to use a function. It's up to you. So there is a lot of ways, and we've been using functions. I'm pretty sure you guys saw that we used a function there to perform some like to do some work. We use functions there. So now, moving on from here, then we've got the OOP part, the object-oriented programming when it comes to JavaScript there. So now what is the OOP? So when it comes to OOP, there's certain terminologies that you use, of which the most important terminology that you're going to be dealing with, something called encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So these are the three requirements of OOP. So now the nice thing about JavaScript or CMS script, it supports all of these aspects, of which you meet these in any language that you're going to deal with, whether it's Java, C++, Python, what other language? C, not really, C doesn't have this, but yeah, most of the major programming languages that use OOP, you are going to meet these terms: encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. And then now, on this now, you notice that we're going to define all of those items bit by bit, but now if you see that taking us back to some of those functions. These are still functions, by the way, but we'll come back to this. So anyway, now notice there is what they call class-based versus prototype-based. Now, under class-based programming, We need to understand the difference between the two. Okay, let's go back and read this here. A class is a kind of recipe for an object. An object is a particular instance of a class. Notice there. So now, for an object to work, it needs class. This is where now all these principles come to, like you understand when you start using them, how they actually get incorporated in these classes and objects there. But now, the only difference with JavaScript and other languages is that JavaScript doesn't have any formal classes. You see, it doesn't have any formal classes there. And then it makes use of objects rather than dealing with classes on its, like on a more like an easy way to go. Like it doesn't really deal with classes independently. So now, when JavaScript looks at that, unlike other languages are very class oriented. They will be dealing with objects as classes, but this JavaScript deals with objects as objects. You notice that? So now, JavaScript objects are basically some form of classes, but in other languages, classes are very class oriented, if I can put it like that. So in this case here, class based versus prototype based. Class based here, now they're saying that a style of object oriented programming in which inheritance, notice the term comes down, inheritance is achieved by defining classes of objects as opposed to objects themselves. Notice that in class objects here, when they're dealing with classes of objects here, they don't deal with objects themselves. Unlike in JavaScript, every time we've been saying object, 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 object. So hence we deal a lot with objects, unlike in other of these languages. You see that the most popular and developed module of OOP, it makes use class-based programming. That is the most popular. And then this one here, you notice they're showing you all these are languages, C++, Java, hence they are OOP. That these are proper OOP languages. As much as JavaScript is also an OOP language, but it is an example of a prototype-based programming language. So now, why is it that? Because this here is a style of object OOP, this is a style of OOP in which classes are not present. You notice we don't use classes. Hence, if you check all this time, we haven't even been using the word class. We've been saying object, object, object. If you check almost everything that we've been doing, we've been saying object. We haven't even used the word class. But once you deal with Java, C++, you'll be dealing with those words like class, class, class. You notice everything that you have is divided into classes. And when these classes interact, that's when they make use of something called inheritance. See, one app inherits all those classes to form one thing. Hence the term inheritance. Now, in prototype here, our objects, then they behave in a certain way. So that behavior is reused time and time again. So the more that you use an object, and the fact that you are going to use it time and time again, so which means literally that is you using those functions and calling that function. You move on to the second part, you call that function again. Basically, you are reusing that particular object. So now if you're reusing a particular object, then what are you doing? You're inheriting its characteristics. See that? Say, hence, this is what we talk about when we're talking about inheritance there. So this behavior is then accomplished through the process of cloning existing projects that serve as prototypes. Now, that goes back to the stuff that we've been talking about there. If you remember the word prototype, remember the word function that we've been using, we use it, and then we go back, call it again, so that we can use it again. And then you go back, you call it again, so that you can use it again. So the more you use it, it's that you are literally inheriting the properties of that particular function. Now, when you do that, you are basically applying inheritance principles. So exactly the same way that inheritance operates in a prototype-based language is basically the same as it operates in a class-based programming language. So that is the major difference that is there between our Java and our JavaScript. Is that Java class-based, whilst JavaScript is script, or what you call this, it's prototype based, if I can put it like that. Say that it doesn't have classes, but it makes use of instances, or it makes use of prototypes. So that is your JavaScript there. Now, and then there's this aspect here of early binding and late binding. Now, early binding means that the properties and methods are defined for a class for an object by its class. Therefore, it is instantiated so that the compiler can properly assemble the machine language ahead of time. So, guys, this is where your level 4 knowledge comes into play. If you understand the difference between compilers, interpreters, machine code, so it makes it easy for you to understand this aspect that you're talking about here. So now, remember, each and every language that you write using or that you code using is interpreted or compiled by a computer in a certain way. So now, when your computer looks at that particular language, it tries to understand it in its own way, and then interprets it into what they call machine code, so that the computer can understand. Because your computer doesn't understand this if name is equals to Peter, then you see that all of that fancy programming language that you write using, a computer doesn't understand that. What a computer understands, zeros and 1. That's what a computer understands. Hence, every time, whenever we write our code, our computer is going to take that code, and then in our IDE that we're using, then your computer is going to either change that code into machine language or try to understand it in a certain way. Now, with languages like Java, Visual Basics, and all those other languages there, you notice that they are part of what they call early binding, where the properties and methods are defined for an object via its class. So the class is the one that holds the properties and methods. So all methods, all properties are inside the class. And then it is instantiated so that the compiler can properly assemble the machine code ahead of time. See that? So hence, that is why if you check with Java, before you use Java, you have to install a development kit. So that kit there is the one that basically, whenever you write any Java code, it's not written on top of the computer, but on top of the computer hardware, but it is written on top of that JTK, the Java Development Kit, because your computer will not understand. So that JTK is the one then that converts or that interprets that language into a language that the computer will understand. But now, when late binding, it means that the computer or interpreter doesn't know what type of object is being held in a particular variable until runtime. You notice there, So now this here is let binding. Why? Because it's easy to get problems here, especially if you're using JavaScript, because you will not know if you have problems until your program starts running, because your interpreter doesn't even know what it's dealing with until it's too late. But with early binding, it allows you to develop problems way before you can go into production. So those are the differences there. But now, also at the same time, JavaScript is more beneficial in terms like compared to any language. Why? So due to late binding, JavaScript allows a large amount of object manipulation to occur without penalty. You see that? So because of that, you can do a lot more with JavaScript, because other languages are not as flexible as JavaScript. With JavaScript, you can literally manipulate objects without suffering like a lot of restrictions. So it allows you to tweak and play around, experiment. That is why if you go even watch videos on YouTube, you notice that almost everyone, they've got their own variation on how they write special JavaScript code. There is like the basic part, but as you go, as you advance, you notice that you also develop your own style, because JavaScript is that kind. That is why it's the most popular programming language in this day and age. So now, then there are types of scripts or of objects, in JavaScript. So you've got what they call native objects, of which these ones you've been looking at earlier are the objects, the boolean, the number, the function, the arrays, the date, regex, we're going to deal with it, error. So these are different types of errors that you have. Then you've got built-in objects there. The built-in objects, these are we've got the global ones, we've got the math ones. So we'll revisit some of these as we work. So, and then you've got host objects, of which you only have two, BOM and DOM. If you still remember those, we spoke about those two. And then now, the most important things. So these are the two most important aspects there. So we've got the array class, then you've got the date class. So we're going to make use of these two. Oh, and then you also have the math object that you still have to make use of there. And then from there, I'm pretty sure we'll be ready for almost anything that JavaScript is going to throw to us or throw at us. Yeah. So now, that's it. So do you have any questions, queries, problems, complaints from your side, guys? Hello?
We have no complaints.
Mr. TC,
Yes? Someone was saying something.
I'm saying we have no complaints, like we're following.
Okay. Right, sir. Okay. So now, since you guys have no complaints, and then we have to look at arrays. This is a big topic, very important, but Okay, so I was saying that we're starting now with a topic called arrays. Now, when you're dealing with arrays, arrays are basically a special type of object. So now, what type of object is it? They are a data structure that is used to store a collection of elements. That's what an array is. It's used to store a collection of elements. So now, not like what we have here on this thing, it doesn't even do justice, but at least they've got the methods. In some part of the arrays there. So this one here doesn't even do justice to what arrays are, because there's a lot when it comes to arrays. But anyway, these ones, they allow you to collect or to store a collection of elements. But the elements, they have to be of the same data type. That's what these elements there. And then on how you create an array, it's quite simple. An array is creating using a square bracket. For instance, let's have a constant. So now this constant here is going to be a constant of fruits, like we did fruits yesterday. It's going to be a constant of fruit, which is equal to, notice before we will say that the fruit is an orange. But now, what if we need to store more fruits? How do you then do that? So instead of just leaving it like that, and then we will have a square bracket. Now in that square bracket, and then we can store a bunch of fruits. So we've got an apple, and then we have a banana, and then we also have another fruit here, which is an orange, I think. Yeah, you notice that. So this is literally how we create an array. So we create an array by using square brackets, separate with elements that are inside being separated using commas. And now, to access an array, we have to use something called an index. That's what we're making use of. So e.g., in this case here, if I do this, so the index of arrays always starts from 0. So in this case here, console.log, and then now what we have is, now we just call the variable that we have, but now inside here, now we have to write the element. So now when I do this, notice 0, which means it's the first one. So if I run this, it's supposed to output apple. Sometimes. Just waiting. My internet is stupid. Okay, I have to start afresh. Const fruits, and then say, what did I say? First one was an apple. And then banana. And an orange. Yep. And then from there, console. Log. Right. Please. Snap. Excuse me. Oops. Okay, run. Notice the output there gives us 0 is the apple. Now, if I say 2, for instance, so the second element, because this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, so it's supposed to output orange. If I run, notice orange. But if I write something that is not there. For instance, element number 5. Then run this. Element number 5, it says undefined, but because it is not there, it doesn't exist. You see that? So now, whenever you're dealing with elements in an array, this is how we literally do that. So let's say now, I want to add an element in the array. So, or I want to change one of the elements. I can do that. So now, then I come here and then I say fruit, and then in this one, and then I want to change this here to a grep. Notice here. Now, if I come here and I say 1, instead of saying banana, as it was initially said, it's supposed to output grep, because I've changed the name of this particular element here. You see that? Because now you're allowed to modify the elements of an array. You're allowed to do that. So if I can just say fruits, and then run my JavaScript there, notice that it shows me all the fruits that are there. And notice fruits element number 1, which was banana initially, now has been removed and then it's been replaced with grape, because this is the second fruit that has replaced that one there. Then if you need to be specific, now you just define it. 2, for instance, then you pick out the second one. If you want to show all of them, then you go through that particular route there. So that is how you deal with arrays. So sometimes you might want to find the length of the array. So let's say to find the length of the array, you just say dot length. Just say dot length. Now when you do that, we've got 1, 2, 3 elements in our array. So if you run, it's supposed to get 3. 3. That is the output you're supposed to get there. See? So that is basically how you deal with arrays. So now there are a lot of methods that you use. For instance, if you want to add elements in an array, there's other elements that you need to do. Notice here, let me hide this. Notice there are other things that the other methods say. They've got join, split, concat, slice, push, pop, put, unshift, reserve, or reverse, sorry, sort. There are many other. We've got like map, filter, reduce, for each, index of, slice, splice, unshift, push, pop. See that you can literally work around the arrays using these particular methods that you have. Now, to show you how to deal with those elements there. Now, let's do this. Let's say we change our array here. This here to be an array of numbers. And then the numbers that you have here are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got these 5 numbers there. Let me remove this. And then here, if I would change this console.log, let me just say number. Console.log number, and then run. Of numbers. Okay, notice that it outputs the numbers there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See that? So we can do this. But now, what if I do not want these brackets here? I don't like those brackets there. How then do I do that? How do I do that? So, and then there are some aspects, let's say there are certain things that I need to do. For instance, I want to add another number on my array. So how do I do that? For me to add a number, I'll just put numbers dot push. Now, by push, I'm simply adding this part here. It's simple adds at the end of the array. So I want to add number 6. I've added number 6 there. And then if I run my code, notice here, I said numbers dot push, and then it has added the 6 element. If let's say I want to remove that added element, numbers dot pop. So when I just do this, I'm simply telling it remove the last number in the element. That's what I'm simply saying. Run. See that it has removed that number 6 that I had added there. Now, I can do this. Numbers dot for each number. So I'm forwarding. Okay, yeah. And then this I'm going to place it inside. Sorry guys. So now, do you notice that this is here is what you call, this is an array. This is how you're basically doing with an array. Some of the methods and some of the different say functions that you find in an array there. So you can add, you can remove, but as I said, that there is a lot more, like there's a lot more to other arrays there. And then there are other loops that you'll be making use of. Each year I said that you'll be making use of the for loop a lot if you're dealing with arrays there. And then there are methods that you use each year, like for instance, for each, which is basically a looping method to iterate. Like for instance here, when I run this, notice there it will keep on repeating these numbers there. When I'm saying for each, it basically iterates. I don't know why. Something like that. Metric is oh, there we go. See that? So this is here is a form of iteration. So it will keep on doing this, basically almost same with the for loop also, to go through a particular array there to iterate. But there are many other. There is also map, as I said, that which creates an array by applying a function to each element. And then there is filter that basically creates a new array that passes certain test. So that, like for instance, if let's say you want to filter names that start with the letter N, then you can filter names and then it creates a separate array of arrays with names that start with N. See that? And then there's reduce, that reduces the arrays to a single value. See, there's a lot that you have to deal with arrays there, but we're going to do a bunch of examples as we go, like them that we just did here. We're going to do maybe 1 or 2 more examples on Thursday, because tomorrow is a holiday. So, yeah. So I think today we can stop here. If you guys have any questions, you can ask. Yeah. Okay. I'm not hearing any questions from you guys. So you guys are okay? Okay. So then we'll meet again on Thursday, and then we are going to continue from that date class. And I think after the date class, as I said, that we just need to look at the global object and the math object. And from there, we should be fine. Then we're just going to deal with objects, like what exactly objects are, but we have looked at objects before. Then we're just going to revisit the object, and then I think we'll be fine. Look at what this one, yes. Also need to look at this one, you know. Also need to look at this one, which is when it comes this one, the constructor, and yeah, then we are done. Then now we can literally show you some examples of classes like that. So yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, and then we can Hope you. Okay, guys. Okay. Seeing message from Lucy. We are trying to judge us everything from today's here, but thank you for that translation. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, you guys have an awesome day. And an awesome, I don't know if I can say a holiday. Yeah, enjoy. Happy Women's Day. Yeah, for the ladies. And for us also. Meet again on Thursday. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, sir.
And be safe, please.
So the only thing I could hear was thank you, sir. I don't hear you properly.
Quick. That's an excuse, Baba.
It's like you're humming. Sir.
Wow. I don't know if I should be touched or I should laugh. Yeah,
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
Thank you, Pascalina.
Cheers. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.